We all know the occupation history of Germany, which was divided into 4 occupation zones and remained divided until 1989, and where complete differences between East and West are still omnipresent today. Austria was also divided between the Allies after World War II, yet the country developed quite differently. After a relatively short time, the occupation statute was completely dissolved, and Austria was completely reunified. There was no division into East and West, and therefore the country was able to grow together again very early. But why did the history of the German neighboring country take such a different course, and why did the Allies treat Austria so differently compared to Germany? We look at all these questions in today's video. The Second World War also endured in Austria with the unconditional surrender of the German Wehrmacht on May 8, 1945. About a month earlier, the Red Army was able to conquer Vienna, and the Western Allies were able to advance into the heartland from the south and west. However, even before the end of the war, a provisional state government was formed in Austria, which called for the restoration of the Republic of Austria. The new government acknowledged that Austria had the responsibility to participate in the war on the side of Hitler Germany, but instead on the Moscow Declaration of the Allies. This declaration stated that Austria was the first free country to fall victim to Hitler's policy of aggression. The victim myth, however, obscures the fact that a large part of the Austrians celebrated the Nazis as liberators, and that the Anschluss did not entail any real resistance. Thus, however, the declaration of the Allies made it clear early that Austria would be treated significantly differently from Germany. Thus, it was stipulated that Austria should exist as an independent state after the end of the war. It was also occupied and administered by the Allies only during a short transitional phase after the war. The British were the only ones who regarded Austria as an enemy state. For the other Allies it was a special case. It was not defined as a victorious power like other liberated states later on, but it was also not treated like Germany either. Nevertheless, it was initially also divided into 4 occupation zones. The eastern states went to the Soviet Union, and the southern states to the British, the western states to the French, and the Americans got the rest. Like Berlin, the capital Vienna was also divided into 4 zones. Only the first district was administered jointly by all. However, the Austrian government was very eager from the beginning to abolish the occupation statute as soon as possible. Thus, negotiations on the restoration of full sovereignty began as early as 1947. However, the Austrians initially had no say in the process. Even though the Austrian population expected a quick breakthrough, the negotiations dragged on due to disagreements between the Allies. The Soviet Union, in particular, was opposed. It supported Yugoslavia's territorial claims on Austria. It was not until 1948 that Tito and Stalin broke off that the Soviet Union also recognized the border as it has existed until the Anschluss of the German Reich in 1938. A short time later, however, there was a further interruption into the negotiations, as the Cold War was now becoming more and more present and the power blocs were increasingly hostile to each other. It was not until 1954 that a breakthrough was achieved, when Austria also offered to remain free of political alliances and to defend neutrality. Since one could already see the split in Germany between East and West, this seemed to be a suitable solution for all sides. The Soviet Union wanted an unconditional guarantee that Austria would not join NATO. And the Western Allies saw good chances of integrating Austria into the West, despite its neutrality. Thus, in 1955, the Moscow Memorandum was signed, in which Austria committed itself to permanent neutrality and in return regained complete sovereignty. The Austrian foreign minister even managed a negotiating victory in the process, as the preamble to the treaty, which was initially intended to emphasize Austria's co-responsibility in the war, was deleted at short notice. He argued that the clause was a mark of guilt and burdened the internal and external development of the young state with a moral mortgage. Thus, Austria was able to clear itself of guilt, and there was now only talk of the forcible annexation of Austria by Hitler's Germany. The treaty finally came into force in July 1955, and within 90 days the Allies had to withdraw completely. Thus, as of October 26, Austria was once again fully sovereign, and this day is still considered a national holiday.